recruiting guru, sports expert, great man. Mike McAllister, how are you?
I'm doing well, Paulie. How are you?
Good. I'm trying to up my game and be nice today, and
I appreciate it.
Just sit and listen to people. I got a question for you.
Okay.
On a scale of Cooper Flagg to Choppa Moore, where is Sadiq White falling to that?
Carmelo Anthony. No. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who you would necessarily compare him to, but think about, when Syracuse was kind of in its heyday under Jim Boeheim, and you had those forwards that were extremely athletic, really bouncy. Right away, like during Fan Fest, they would throw down some impressive dunks, stuff like that. You're going to see that from Sadiq White right away. The biggest key for him is going to be how much more refined he gets in terms of his offensive game, outside of just being able to dunk over people or jump really high and all those types of things. How does his mid-range jumper look? How effective is he from the outside? How able is he to bang with ACC defenders inside and be physical with them? Because, he's got a really long frame, but he's not, coming in 250 pounds, so to speak. So there's certainly work to do, but the talent and the upside is absolutely through the roof.
Let me ask you one more question. Everybody's talking about the roster next year already and the rebuild that they have to do. Syracuse has done best out of the portal recently with guys they recruited originally and ended up getting later on. Is there anybody that you could think of that maybe isn't getting the minutes or isn't happy out there at a Power 5 or somewhere that Syracuse recruited that you think would be high on their list?
One name that has been, I don't know if it's been rumored or that's probably way too strong, but because there's been a coaching change in the middle of the season, I wonder if someone like Jaleel Bethea in Miami would decide to enter the transfer portal, because when he went to Miami, he was obviously going to play for Larrañaga, and now that Larrañaga's not there, he doesn't know what the future of that program is going to be. Who's the new coach going to be? How does that coach's system fit his skill set? All of those types of things. So it wouldn't completely stun me. I have no information on whether or not he is even considering that, and he might not. But if he did, it would make sense for Syracuse to look at him as someone who could kind of play the 2 or the 3 and is really, really talented, McDonald's All-American, all those types of things.
Mike, I'm going to jump away from basketball and talk football for a minute. Any news that you've heard about the guys from their combine experience? Just watching Kyle sling it in a shirt and shorts. He looked pretty good, as well as LeQuint, and it doesn't help when Fidel Diggs runs a 4.57.
Yeah, no, Fidel Diggs 40 times certainly helped him. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and they said, I wonder if that bumps him up around, and it's possible that something like that could. So that certainly helped him. Everything that I heard about LeQuint Allen in terms of how he didn't run the 40, but everything he did from all of the other drills was extremely impressive. I think all of those guys that when teams meet with them, they'll leave an impression. And Kyle McCord, as you said, he was as sharp as any of the quarterbacks that threw. I think he helped himself. I know there's always that comparison with Will Howard, right, because of the Ohio State situation. And Will Howard really struggled, and Kyle McCord was outstanding. So he certainly performed much better at the combine than what Will Howard did. And I think was one of, if not the top performer. So I still think he's got a shot to go day 2. But, it's going to take a team falling in love with him, obviously.
Where do you see LeQuint Allen landing? A lot of talk is he could be one of the first 5 running backs taken, and we know the premium of running backs that they don't go high anymore. Like, do you see LeQuint being a top 3 round guy?
I mean, it's possible. I think it would have to be the right situation where they need someone exactly like him. But, maybe it's so hard to predict where running backs are going to go, because in one hand, like you said, over the last several years, running backs have really been devalued and have really dropped down in terms of, you didn't really see the top 5 draft picks that were taking running backs as they used to, even 10, 15 years ago. Thinking back even to Saquon Barkley was a top 5 NFL draft pick. But for the most part, you'd get like maybe one in the first round. When Jahmyr Gibbs was taken by the Detroit Lions, that was a surprise. Everyone's like, why are you taking a running back this high? And for the most part, it's kind of been back end of the first round into the second round is kind of where the top running backs go, and then sort of fall from there. So I could see LeQuint maybe going third, fourth round, depending upon. But it's going to be a team, I think, that needs someone who catches the ball well out of the backfield and is looking for someone along those skill sets. And actually, everyone knows I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. They're not expected to re-sign Kenneth Gainwell, who was kind of that third down running back and good in pass protection, good out of the backfield, and the backup to Saquon. He's someone that I've said as an Eagles fan, I would love for the Eagles to take him, fourth, fifth round, something like that, if he was still available, to be someone to come in and battle with Will Shipley to back up Saquon. I think it would be a really good fit.
Yeah, LeQuinn was even asked about Buffalo as well in the sound that was sent to us. So, a couple landing spots you named there. Looking at Syracuse's, coaching staff, any more things on that front? Nunzio getting an opportunity to interview with the Eagles, or is everything kind of set there? And are you surprised that his name has been thrown out for a couple of those jobs?
Not surprised that names have been thrown around, and we know obviously Ross Douglas left, and
Yes.
Jeff Nixon's name was bantered about in terms of potential NFL positions and things like that. But Fran Brown has said from when he took the job, he wants his coaches to get notoriety and to get recognized and to get promotions and take jobs and become head coaches. So it's not surprising that he's that's happening. And also, when you have a really good season, Syracuse was 10-3, and their offense was unbelievable, one of the best passing offense in the country. It's not surprising that the people around that passing offense, quarterbacks coach, wide receivers coach, offensive coordinator, et cetera, are getting interviewed for other jobs. That's not really a huge surprise. And, as long as Fran Brown is here and as long as Syracuse continues to win and put together good seasons, I think that's going to happen every single offseason. As far as Nunzio goes, I think Philadelphia did hire a quarterbacks coach.
Yes.
They hired Willie Green's head coach. So that situation doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition. But I would expect he'll be back for next season, but I think it's a matter of time before he's either given an offensive coordinator job somewhere or an NFL opportunity in the near future.
I'm going to jump back to basketball real quick for you, and 2 games left in the season here. If you could pinpoint to you why the struggles have happened this season, is it more roster makeup, coaching, or all the above?
I think whenever you have struggles like they have this year, it's hard to point to one specific thing. It is just this.
Correct.
So I think there's probably blame all the way around. The biggest thing to me has been on the defensive end. If you look at the way that they've performed for the most part, especially in ACC play, they put up points. They put up points against Virginia Tech. They scored in that game enough to win. Even though they had the offensive drought in the second half that allowed Virginia Tech to get back into the game, they still scored enough points to win that game. They scored enough points at Pittsburgh to win that game. There's been several like that. The problem has been defensively. You see 3-4 minute stretches where they're really good, and then you see 10 to 15 minute stretches where they're really bad. That's been the biggest thing. I know turnovers have been an issue as well, but ultimately, is it players? Is it coaches? Is it some combination thereof? Is it roster construction? It's usually a little bit of everything that is why they're in the position that they're in.
All right, speaking of roster building, one more question for you before I let you go. Would you do a total blow up on this team, or are there a couple players you would like to see back next year?
I wouldn't do a total blow up. Like, if you can get JJ to come back, I would want him back. I would want Donnie Freeman back. Kyle Cuff, I think, showed some good things in the last game. I was a little bit surprised he didn't see more run down the stretch of the second half. But, there's some guys, certainly Elijah Moore, I'd want to come back and continue to develop. There's certainly guys on the team that I would want to bring back. Mastorovich, I think, has been a bright spot this season. Again, I'm not saying that he hasn't had, his share of freshman issues and hasn't made some mistakes, along the way, but I think he has shown might not be one of those guys that's, elite at any one thing, but is above average at a whole bunch of things. And that is a really valuable piece to have on your team. I think there's potential that he could end up becoming sort of that Merrick Dolajai fan favorite, scrappy guy that does a little bit of everything, as I said. So, there's certainly guys that I would want to come back. I wouldn't want to blow it up and say, let's have a completely new roster. Every single roster spot is open going into next year. I think you'd have to take far too many transfers in order to make that work. And I just don't see that working out well. I think if you can bring back some of those core guys, then that will be really helpful for next year. And then you can be a little bit pickier in the portal.
I got one more I lied to you. Would you go smaller schools next year, or would you try and stick in the Power 5, Power 4, whatever it is for college basketball?
I wouldn't limit yourself to either one of those. We've seen Power 5 guys or Power Conference guys that have transferred from one school to another and done well. We've seen them transfer from one school to another and not do well. We've seen guys from smaller schools come up to the higher level and perform very well. Dalton Connect was, one of the favorites for Player of the Year last year at Tennessee, and he came from a smaller school. There's examples of those across the country this year. There's examples of those not working out well. So it's not one thing. It's not like you just need to do this and it'll work. Syracuse with a new GM and Alex Klein, I think that will help, but they need to go out and find the guys they think are the best options at the positions that they need, and then hopefully they'll have the NIL in place to make those situations happen.
All right, Mike, thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
That's Mike Waters.
Mike McAllister.
Mike McAllister, Mike Waters.
Right. Sorry. Poor Mike. Thanks, Mike, as always.
Who did I just insult more?
Yeah.
You answer that question. Why did I say that? I'm only hearing out of one of my headphones right now, too.